here we are on our third episode.
Yay.
Episode 3.
Yay.
If you're still with us, thank you, because it's been quite a learning process to figure things out, and figuring out sometimes it sounds okay in one setting, but not in the other. And then once everything's all recorded and put on, then you find problems after you've already put it out.
Yeah, it's a learning curve.
And it's like, for crying out loud.
Yep.
So
anybody with technical, when you do this, right, all your wires are right now, you're supposed to separate the wires. Let me know if I'm wrong, email us in the comments or whichever. But like things can't be touching. Well, since my son moved in, I had the studio perfect. Perfect. Okay. And then now, so if you hear any sounds or anything, we apologize.
And it could also just be my luck with anything technological, because I am that person. If I'm in the office building, the IT person hates me because I just break computers. And he, says, what did you do? And I'm like, what they told me to do. And I'm just constantly fighting them, even though I'm not inept. But things just happen to me all the time. So
gremlins. And I got to fix it. So I fix it. Like I run all the computers at school, wash them, make sure they're okay, do all of that.
Figure out what's wrong with this.
I do that. So I got like 7 computers, and then I got to clean them up and then wash them, make sure all the kids are doing whatever on there. And so. But
on the other hand, it's also difficult just to, if you're like me, where you have a hard time putting yourself out there. Okay. That's been a huge learning curve for me too, because I constantly have to be watching myself now and listening to myself, which I hate doing, and trying not to be a perfectionist about it, because when you are a perfectionist about it, then you end up making it worse sometimes.
I'm a beautiful man.
And I know you could listen to your voice
to myself talk
all day.
All the time.
Not all of us are as cute
Everybody
as you are.
Just love yourself. Everybody should just love themselves the way they are.
Yes. I'm working on it, but this has been a huge jump for me. So
it's a tough road.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Teacher's Curse. I'm Annie.
And I'm Kevin.
And we're the Leather Barrows. I wanted to, so something came to my attention the other day about different parenting styles. Mm-hmm. So we know about things like, there were the 3 basic ones, like authoritative, authoritarian, and then I can't remember what like the easier one, the easygoing one was, what the technical term for that was, that we learned about in high school. But then there's these subgroups, and that's your helicopter parents, and and I even saw one that said the granola parents. Those are the ones that eliminate plastics and all the preservatives, which is great. I wish I was better at that, but I'm not.
Yeah. Yep. So, when you're a teacher, you meet all kinds of people.
Yeah, all of them.
All kinds. Everything on every spectrum. And if you have 30 kids in your class, listen, hats off to all of you, because I remember those days and teacher-parent conferences, and then the kids, and they give you a list, right? And that list is like, my kid can do this, they can't have this. Oh, and if you have a party, make sure that they do this. And once you get done with that,
the allergy lists. And
then the allergy list comes in, right? And you're like, shit, I never saw that coming.
All the fun things teachers have to deal with. No matter what setting you're in.
No.
If you're a teacher, you have had to deal with this, and you know what we're talking about.
Counselors, you do the same thing, right? Counselors do.
And it's not that there's any one wrong way to parent. I think it completely depends on the child. I've even heard, mothers that have multiple children, they kind of have to change up their parenting style depending on the kid that they're dealing with at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's great, because that's really what we have to do in the classroom all the time. Every individual child that comes to us, we have to kind of see, okay, is my natural approach going to serve this child? Or do I have to kind of put on the acting hat, like you've talked about with me, to change that up a little bit? So this parenting style that's kind of making its rounds is called the Lighthouse parent. And I kind of like it. It kind of struck me So the idea is that you're the lighthouse and your child is the ship. And your child is going to have to learn to navigate these waves and avoid the rocks, and they're going to have to go and do these things that are scary and potentially dangerous.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about Gen X.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, it sounds just like the Gen X parents. Mom always said, "I'll leave the light on for you, but don't be past too much. The street lights go on."
Isn't it a thing where in the 80s parents didn't even know where their kids were?
Hell no.
At the time?
Well, they didn't know where we were. We were on a bike somewhere. And, and like, I mean, the light is just perfect for this because Mom would always leave the front porch light on.
You always knew where to go home.
Yeah.
You always knew who to turn to when you really got in trouble.
Yeah, so they just kind of guided it.
Did you use it, though? If you got into sticky situations, which you did many times.
Yeah, we had a saying in our neighborhood: if the front porch light was not on, you don't go to the door.
Okay.
So so all the parents kind of guided like this in my neighborhood and around. So it really does hit home when I think about this, because I could look down the street and see if Mark's light was on, front light, and I either knew Mark was not home, meaning he didn't make it home. Met my buddy Mark. His parents are always home at 6 o'clock. Okay. You always watch the news first. Okay. You eat dinner, then you watch the news. That's what you do in a working family. So you just kind of.
But what I'm saying is, if your parent was the lighthouse.
Yeah, my mom was the lighthouse.
Did you use.
My dad didn't give a shit.
Did you use the lighthouse?
Yeah.
When you got into trouble?
Yeah. Oh.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Do you see my question now?
Yes. But not at home. Like, if you're out on the street and you're riding your bike or doing whichever, that was like a thing, Don't go to a house that never had a street light on. And I know a lot of people probably will identify with this if you remember this back in 1978.
I don't think you're getting what I'm asking you.
I do. I'm just looking deeper into it, because when you have that type of parenting style, and that was the majority of my childhood's parenting style, was the light was on, they let us loose, we did whatever we wanted to for generations, and we did this, and we knew that we can go back home, and Mom would be the understanding one, and Dad is standing there with a 6-foot pole.
So Mom was the lighthouse?
Yes. Yes.
Dad was the orca whale
go
that
see your father.
Knock over your ship.
I mean, we're 10, 9, 8, we're just riding our bikes around. I mean, we go miles. And then, obviously, yes, if I had a problem, yes, I could go to Mom and I could say she was the lighthouse, and you could talk to her about it. Dad just kind of hems and haws, in my family. But Mark's family was the same way. And my other friend's family was the same way. And so where did the parenting lighthouse thing change?
So I think, I don't know. I'm going to circle back. I'm going to think on that for a second. But what's happening is the lighthouse parenting is coming to light. Pun intended. Own your puns, people. It's coming to light because of they're realizing that the generation of gentle parenting may not be as effective in execution as it is in theory. Mm-hmm. Because when you're reading about gentle parenting, it sounds great. You're connecting with the child's emotions, and you're letting them know your emotions, and everything's dealt with on an emotional level. Mm-hmm. But even the experts say it takes a lot of time. Right. And it also requires that the parent is emotionally mature enough to do that. So I think that's kind of why you see the difference in how older children are raised versus younger siblings. Mm-hmm. Because usually...
Mom just turned from like helicopter to, by the second one, you're...
Right. Where's my
third.
kid?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But parents also tend to be, I would think, get more emotionally mature as that goes on. So they can predict problems before they happen. And they know how to deal with that a little bit better. So you and I mean, are seeing that raising our own kid right now.
Yeah.
And so we've been kind of raising him together for the past 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've been his parents for the past year and a half.
Yep. Adopt a child, just so everybody knows.
Yeah. And you have already gone through the process of raising 2 children. But for me, I'm doing this for the first time.
Right.
And we're already, because that's, you and I butt heads a lot of the times, because there's a lot of things that you are just like, no, it's okay. He'll be fine. Don't even worry about it. Where I am like, if we are not hard on this structure and making sure that every little thing is addressed, he's not going to grow up to be well adjusted, and it creates this fear in me. So you and I have to spend a lot of time working through
and coaching.
You have that emotional maturity, you have that emotional understanding,
yes,
way ahead of where I'm at. And I guess that's kind of why because I have become more of a helicopter parent, which I never wanted to be. I never saw myself as.
Right.
And you don't know until you're in the thick of it and in the fire of it.
Yep.
How you are going to react to what you call small things.
Right.
I see as the building blocks of his character, and therefore his entire future.
I trust foundation, and we have you've done a really good job of giving the child a foundation, and there's a time where you have to ask yourself, okay, are they laughing? Are they happy in this? And where am I in all of that? And that's a growing process. that's definitely a growing process, because you always want to have a pillow on their ass. You always just want to have it and make sure that if they fall on that, they're good to go.
Yeah.
And I completely understand that.
I have felt the feeling of, I wish I could just put them in bubble wrap. And I didn't think that I was going to be like that. But I think that if I could just send him out into the world in bubble wrap, then I would feel much better. But obviously that does nothing for them.
Yeah. How many of you guys just go down the river? Do you just put a life jacket on and then I just row? And if he falls overboard, I'll hear him.
Like, don't fall in.
Don't fall in. He's never fallen in. Has he come close? Yeah. Oh my gosh, no way. He can't do it.
Sit down.
He can't be on
Don't
that
move.
edge. Don't move. Yeah, everybody knows if you're on when I might hear the plunk, I might not, but since we're going down the river, he'll either pass me or he'll catch up.
I think some of it is too, because you always say, well, I know how to save his life.
I do.
Where I do not necessarily have that confidence. I would have to be like, wait, how do you perform, CPR again? Even though I know that I know it, but it's having that surety, that confidence in, I can save him if something bad happens.
Well,
so,
I can. That's a steep statement. I can do high level of making sure that he comes home. I found out I can't stitch as well as I used to in the past. But parents need to have that medical training though, and I have medical training, and so there's a lot of growth between our age, because I've done so much of that medical training, and through professionalism, schools they should teach you, all right, and then obviously in the medical field prior to that. But
I would assume that a lot of first-time parents go through that, where I'm just going to try and prevent anything bad from happening to him, so that I don't have to save his life.
Right. I've gone through that,
and I'm totally going through this, mental tug of war all the time between letting him do that. So, related to the Lighthouse is that quote, yes, ships are safe in the harbor, but that is not what ships are built for.
Right.
But you need the lighthouse so that you know.
And here comes
how to come home.
And here comes the teacher's curse.
Right.
If you have your children in your schools, which I've had my children inside my schools, I've had them order pizza before. Okay, I've had them, come down and say, I think I'm going to get detention. I said, I don't care.
Well, you
Yeah,
probably,
go
what'd you
sit,
do?
right? And so when he came along, and now watching you grow with him inside the school, and I have to remind her, I have to say, Ann, listen, you have to remember, what if you just put him in the public school? Oh God. The shit hits the fan. I said, just picture yourself sometimes that you're not
You
his
think
mother.
I'm a helicopter parent now.
Wow. Right. I know. No kidding. So there's a lot that goes into the curse, and that curse has bitten me more than once. So I'm good with it. So I have to tell him, stop sending him to detention. He's not going to remember. Stop sending the little son of a bitch to stop sending him to detention.
To the principal's office because we
are the principals and the teacher and all of this.
And you're no help because you just tell him to go back out and
get back out there,
behave better.
Right. That's the teacher's curse. And then you come home and we try to be this Lighthouse. Okay. And
whatever happened
the Lighthouse, it's supposed to stay there. Right. So the punishment that he gets stays at school. That's so, because we don't want to tarnish what was there. But the tension, the elephant that's in the freaking room when we come home and he's been a bad boy.
It's so hard because the character building happens in the home, so it's so hard to separate that because if it in normal families, it's what happened at school today, and then you get the story, and then you go, oh, okay, so let's talk about it.
They don't get a story. They don't even today.
That's
they go,
true, but
I know, I hear you.
You know what I mean.
Yes.
But with us, it's like, I already know what happened. I saw the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need to talk about it so that it doesn't keep happening. And it's
the teacher's curse.
Sun up to sundown, and that is the teacher's curse.
It's the teacher's curse, right? And I just shut the door and go out and play with the dog or do something else when I come home. I let him just run the house. I don't give a shit. I don't care what. He can just sit and play and do what he needs to do as long as he's not harming me or anything else. And Anna's still on him. Like a wet noodle. Still sore about something that happened at school.
Because I have to teach him to be a decent human being someday. Like, school's not going to be his whole life. He's got to know how to do life things.
Right. But we run the risk of this like that they say, I don't want to go to school. I don't like it. And that balance is the teacher's curse.
Because
Mom, Dad, and back to school.
Because if I have to get on him at school as his teacher, right, he's still seeing it as, oh, Mom's just getting on me again. And Mom's just on me all the time.
You have to know psychology at all times. Yep. It's our responsibility to know that psychology. And we know how that is an art at times. And the art never always comes out perfect. It comes out sometimes as a very abstract understanding with children development within the home basis, let alone school basis.
Yeah.
And that's tough.
Yeah. So you think you were raised in a Lighthouse parenting household, though?
Yeah, very loved, but very worried about. The same thing with, I related to the river runs through it. When they don't come home all night after they steal the boat. That was my childhood.
Right.
And, didn't you have any worry for your mother? Right. And you're like, oh, shit. Hit there, would you? All right. And that's how I was raised. I was also raised very Catholic, but in the same sense, it was, look what you did to your mom. And that, I think, hurt the most, being a hellion as a youngster, but still being like, I'd be grounded for 2 weeks and then still be able to fish all night long. Be gone.
See, and I had a really different experience because I'm the baby girl, right? And I wouldn't say mine's mine was necessarily a lighthouse parenting. I would almost say I was more on the gentle parenting side the more that I really look into it. I had wonderful parents.
Yeah, you were gentle side.
Yeah.
You didn't I don't think you even peed your pants
But
even when you were a young kid.
What does that have to do with anything?
I think you're so good you didn't even.
Oh, I know.
Like, you didn't even.
I'll just do
Yeah,
it.
you were potty trained at 2, like 1.
I was very
Right.
I've always been very by the book, and okay, mom said this, so that's just the way that it's going to be. And you know, and my late father was the epitome of gentleness. You know, I don't think he ever raised his voice at me.
And you never gave him a reason, really.
I think I did.
I don't think you did.
Not
the stories that I hear.
There.
Yeah, but not the But I talked to your mom, and do you ever play cards with your relatives?
And he
know everything.
He would probably say the same thing, like, "Oh no, you weren't that bad." I look back and I'm like, "Gosh, I was a shit to him." You know, I totally just took advantage of him.
Yeah, you took advantage of his kindness.
I did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I took advantage of my mother's kindness. We all do that.
I think that affects me when I see other kids doing the same thing to their parents who are perfectly nice people.
Absolutely.
It just like unleashes something in me where I'm like, don't treat your parents like that. And obviously you can't force that, but it lights this fire in you of how do I make that situation better?
What was your time where you were cognitively aware that you hurt your mother that much that you never did it again?
My dad?
Mom or dad?
Or my mom. Because
my dad wasn't at the same time.
Yeah, my dad wasn't until much later. My mom, it was probably about, I don't know. Probably the teenage years. My mom would say that I was the perfect child.
Yeah. No, she does.
If she's listening right now, she'll laugh about that. She said that I was never out of line. And do you remember I asked her, like, didn't you think that there was something odd about that? That I never took the risk of, I'm going to push my mom's boundaries.
Or any boundaries.
Yeah, and I didn't.
Some people are just molded like that.
I did with my dad, right? Which I felt terrible about later on.
That's because we tell even the kids at school that you guys are nothing but little devils, because you'll find that little weakness, right? No matter how good you are. Yeah, no matter how good you are, right? No matter how good. Yeah. And you'll find that, and it's out of character, but you'll take advantage of the weak. Or what you think is weak, because he was never weak. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, I think so too now.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that when I was younger.
You gotta be a parent.
And he was the most patient person. Gosh, anyway. But I think, I remember I went into my mom's room early in the morning when I was maybe 15. And I was bawling because I had just been awful that week, and I realized it. And
I have a lot of those.
Yeah, and 17 hit, of course. If you have 17-year-olds out there, we're sorry. 17 is the worst, even for...
We want them graduated by 16.
Yeah, even for the most well-behaved children. Like, there's just something that switches over in 17.
Well, they're starting to get their independence. That's when they start poking the bull and the alpha and the omega.
Yeah, and that's when I started kind of...
Poking the omega and the alpha.
A little bit, yeah. You know, I never did anything like life-altering or anything like that. I was still very by the book. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I think I was almost on the gentle parenting side, and I'm sure I'll get a phone call from my mom saying that that's
not the case.
that's not the case.
Yeah.
But I was also a very emotional kid too. So that had to be worked through with me because I was one where I cried very easily. And it wasn't always because I was upset. Usually it was because I was overwhelmed and I wasn't expressing myself.
So
not because I couldn't, I felt like I couldn't express myself. I just didn't know how. It's just in my brain. Like I struggle with that,
mm-hmm.
and I'll just get to a point where I have to have that release. So I think there was a lot of emotional work that I had to go through as a kid with my parents to figure that out. And that's probably also why I treated my dad so poorly because I just had that lack of communication skills and
so
it overwhelmed me.
Where's the lighthouse and all that? If your mom, let your, I think your mom and dad were definitely that kind of same way.
Yeah, and I think I realized that as an adult now, and in my early adult years, I've always known that I can go home. I've always known that I can
always
call on. Not that I always did, though.
Oh no,
right?
No, it's reverse psychology. I think they worked it perfect because if they tell us to, and they right, it's reverse psychology. And you're like, no, I don't want. I'm not gonna call you when I'm out on my own.
I'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out. Yeah, even younger.
By the way, can I have $100?
Yeah, and the keys.
So I can be an independent woman.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference between male and female. I think there's the way sometimes we raise like that, and unfortunately, it's another societal thing. It's a sociology understanding, different eras of time where one community looked out for children and everybody else, and now everybody hides from society and everybody else. So it's very much different. Everybody's turned into that helicopter, but
I think
in a way,
I think there's a lot of that going on.
I do too.
Because you don't, for the very simple reason that you don't see kids running around in the neighborhood anymore, right? Just out having fun and meeting up. And
it might be our side of the neighborhood, but I know I see them playing and out and about. So that might be different for a lot of, and maybe a lot of you guys are seeing that, right? So that might be true, but we're not doing it as often, or it's definitely noticeable, and I'm with you on that.
My mom had said years ago, she said, kids aren't walking to school anymore.
No, I had to walk up hills and
I literally had to walk uphill.
I know you lived in Utah.
Yeah. To walk up a hill to get to school.
Yeah.
But she was saying like so much social interaction happens during those times.
Oh my gosh.
Walking to and from school.
It establishes hierarchy. It establishes so much, even, and each one grade level stuck to its own level.
Yeah.
The sixth graders did not walk with the third graders.
Yeah.
The fourth graders.
Unless they were siblings.
Unless they were siblings.
And they would split. Like the protector, yeah.
Right.
They would still split, right.
They get to the certain block on the street and they did not want to be seen. I didn't want to be seen with my sister. She was 4 years younger. I had to walk her to school. While you're walking, I had to walk to elementary and middle school. And so did she. Okay. But the little princess started getting more rides from my mother because she was a school teacher and she went back to school after my sister was of age. I'm like, man, I did get the ride, but I locked my mom out of the car. So she stopped doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. That was a terrible day.
I can't imagine raising you.
No, I was completely terrible.
But I always say that's why you make such a great teacher for the most difficult kids, is because you were that kid.
The most difficult kid.
So you are always 10 steps ahead of them, and it drives them crazy, but it works, and it's so good.
Yeah.
And they can't stand it because they're just like, who is this guy? And you just look at them like, I'm you.
Yeah, you. You. There'd be very little of a ball that gets thrown past me.
So we had these very different experiences growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Just in sheer personality differences.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've brought that up too. Is there a difference between how we raise boys versus how we raise girls, or is it really just an individual matter? Because we have a whole bunch of first grade boys right now,
Mm-hmm.
and they all have to be addressed very much in the same way.
Yeah.
In the same manner.
Yep.
And if there was a first grade girl that was thrown into that mix, how do you address that?
Oh man, I mean,
you would probably send her with me,
yeah,
so that she's getting that female energy,
yeah,
right? And it might need to be a little more gentle, and it might need to be a little bit more about the emotional building blocks.
At times,
where the boys, it's like, hey,
does that
look at me?
Well, does that mean that we liked well, I don't want to use the word segregated, but where there was girls' schools and boys' schools, and then they integrated in 6th grade, or they went to co-ed at a 6th grade level?
And you know what's so interesting about that? Whenever I've posed that question to middle schoolers,
right,
and we were doing argument, almost always they will say that they should be separate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? And
yeah.
they just think that they would be able to get more out of it if
they didn't have the distractions.
Yeah.
Well, the boys would, that's for sure. Everything's a distraction.
Literally everything.
Literally.
Can't put any more distractions in there.
Nope. I mean, during this whole age process, the girls look like boys are definitely from a different planet.
Yeah.
Cognitively,
they look at them like they are. Like,
right.
Why is he acting that way? And
right.
And it's just like, I don't know. It's just the boy brain. Like,
yep.
It's so true. As many kids as we have worked with, and we've definitely been successful in educating both of them together.
Oh yeah.
I think there's only been, a select few situations where we've decided to separate just because of energy levels and what
an issue and other issue levels.
Yeah.
Other things that are that need to be worked out first.
But I remember thinking that as a girl student myself, and it was just like, all these boys, like,
oh my gosh,
knock it off.
Yeah. When we remind myself of how it was in school with girls versus boys, you get your block knocked off if you insulted a girl or if you did things of that nature. There was this protection around that, So I mean, think of it as oh my gosh, what's that movie? John Travolta's in it. Grease.
Grease, yes.
And the girls all stick together and they'd beat up on you. They'd steal your lunch. They would be.
I love the pink ladies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my lunchroom. And all the boys sat away from everybody,
yes,
1 through 6.
Well, you boys went to after school, went to the auto shop and worked on cars and combed your hair and danced.
Definitely got muddy.
I've always told you you're a Kaneki.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. But again, different societal issues with understanding parenting today. Lighthouse parenting, any of the other ones that you had listed. Authoritarian.
Yeah. The helicopter parent.
The helicopter. And then trying to do both while we teach.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have it any other way because I love that we're literally able to witness his full development.
Yeah.
In a classroom setting as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just me at home educating him
right
all the time, day in and day
hard.
out. Yeah.
It is so hard. And I remember telling you how hard this journey was going to be. And if I was even willing to go through with something like that, because I know how it is being a teacher and a parent at the same time. And then I'm at like, fuck it all. And you're at like,
get in there and brush your teeth correctly.
And you know who gets the brunt
or
of
you're
it?
going to get
I
cavities.
do. Did he brush his teeth? Did he wash his face? I'm walking out the door.
And the answer is usually no.
His pants were on backwards today. Why is his pants
like
on
that.
backwards today? I just saw everything in front of my face, gave him something to eat, and stuck him out the door. So if humility when he gets to school, if somebody says, why is your pants on backwards? He's our child. He cannot dress like that in public. What if I just put him on the bus and you didn't know anything about it?
Then I suppose I'd have to learn.
He comes home.
Accept.
Oh, stuff's backwards.
He's going to dress in all red. Yep,
Yeah.
And have it all be backwards. And...
If I get away with it, I got to get him on the bus and off. No. Not happening. But, save my butt. Did your dad dress you in all one color?
I know. Did your dad pick out those clothes? No, I did. Oh, okay.
That's right.
Well, let's go try again.
See? He doesn't know fashion.
No.
Especially as a boy.
It's not going to be his strong suit.
No. And you know what? I think society knew that because they started selling two socks that were different from each other. That's what society did. All of a sudden, people started buying socks that didn't match. They were in a pair.
Oh yeah, like you get a pack and there's 10 different designs in there.
Yeah, one
instead of like just give me all white.
Yeah, I think the smartest thing they ever did to save dads, save everybody else, because then now both socks don't match anyway. It doesn't matter. I'm good. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to try and be more of a Lighthouse parent because I like the visual of it. I like the idea of it.
Yeah, I'll try not to give them pudding in the morning that much.
Thank you.
No pudding. Don't ever give your children pudding for breakfast with a banana.
Don't eat your meat.
Yeah. And I try very hard. Just can I have the pudding? Yeah. Early in the morning. I'm good.
It is great. Gives us chocolate cake.
That one hurt. Me and him. He's got his pudding taken away. For later, I brought two.
Father of the year.
Got a breakfast. Milk. Got to be in pudding.
Eggs.
It worked.
This is the Teacher's Curse. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you keep following along with us on this journey. I'm Annie.
And I'm Kevin.
Leather Barrels out.